We are back over here at the Navy Yard renovation. Demolition is complete and cleaned out. Tom is on site here starting the metal framing, and we're gonna touch base and talk about a couple of challenges that we ran into. It's not a big space. This is a renovation, and we obviously wanna save as much as we can because for cost, from a cost standpoint. So the biggest challenge here is that when it was built in this high rise, is they build all the walls first, and then all the ceilings are then supported off the walls. So talk to me a little bit about how we achieved removing, say, this wall, but leaving the ceiling intact.
Absolutely. So you can see this, there was a wall here before and we took that out, but the problem was that wall was supporting our drop ceiling here, which contains all our ductwork, a lot of insulation. So what I did was measure down and cut down the existing studs at the proper distance, which kept supporting the drop ceiling. And then I will screw a track in like I have over here to receive those cut studs and then screw a return track to catch our ceiling joists as they come across.
So I'm gonna stop you real quick. So the first track you're putting on is really just to cap the bottom of your now short studs.
Exactly.
And that ceiling was always screwed into those studs because that's how that ceiling was supported to begin with. And you're cutting those directly underneath the screw. So that screw is still supporting the weight of that ceiling from coming down.
Yep.
And then from there, you're attaching a secondary track for what reason?
That's to receive the catch the ceiling joists as they come across. You can see these little pieces in here. Our blue board and plastic will be screwed into that short ceiling joist, and to attach those, we needed a track also.
Understood. Awesome. So some of the products that we're dealing with on this project originally were 26 gauge light gauge metal.
Yep.
Oftentimes LGMF, light gauge metal framing, right? We opted to go with 20 gauge because it's a little bit more rigid. We're dealing with a lot of small studs, 1.5 inch, 2.5.
And that's the heaviest gauge we can get in these size studs, in our 1 5/8 studs.
That are readily available. Very good. So I'm gonna take a look at the product over here, guys. So for instance, right here we have our 1.5 inch stud. So this is our most common stud for our ceilings. Almost all of our ceilings are gonna be framed with this on the horizontal. And while it does a pretty good job of staying straight, you can probably see there's a slight bow to that. And when you do have a long run, you're actually running an additional stud up to the ceiling and bracing that, sometimes with the diagonal if needed. But you also have these notches in all the steel studs. That's for your traditional wiring. Now you're not necessarily drilling through these studs. A lot of the electricians actually have the name escapes, like basically an escutcheon or a grommet so the wiring can run through without chafing the jacket on the wiring. And then also in the area that we need to have some sort of timber attachment, say door casing or door jambs or blocking for vanities, we're dealing with or we're installing usually this dimensional lumber. If you look closely, it's got a red to a pink hue to it. That's actually the fire rating on this. So I'm gonna pull this up here. You can actually see this one's cut off, but this is your stamp for your fire rating. And when this stuff gets installed, it's important that these stamps stay out. So if this was a door jamb in a vertical application here, this is important to face out. So when the inspector is on site, they can see that and confirm that this is indeed fire rated. Because of the type of construction in a high rise is, you can't have combustible materials, and this is how we get away with that. And that's also the reason we're using steel stud for our primary framing. It's cheaper, lighter, and easier to use, especially when you get to a fire rated timber. This can be 2 to 3 times the cost of a traditional KD.
So here's a ramset power actuated fastener. Most people just call it a ramset. And it's fed with a 22 caliber shell casing. And we're gonna shoot this 3/4 inch galvanized nail into the concrete, which will fasten our track. So I already have the cartridge sitting in there. So a couple different ways you can cut a metal stud. Since since we don't have a ton of cuts here, I'm just gonna use my tin 6 though. One thing I like to do, make the electrician's life easier, to keep my knockouts at the same height for each one. So if I pull length off of a stud, I'll make sure I get the top keyhole on the same side of each stud. And your chases will all line up. So what we got here is a 7/16 self-tapping panhead screw, and we use this to attach our metal stud to our metal track.